everybody.
Hello. Hello. Alright, hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez here, and welcome back to another YouTube channel. Ignore my laundry in the back. I need to fix that. Today we're doing we're doing a MCU shows tier list. It's kind of crazy that I've been doing MCU lists like all week round. Like last week I did the Marvel MCU movies list. This week I'm doing MCU shows. And next week I'm ranking the Marvel Netflix shows. So be prepared for that. But with that said, let's go and start ranking these MCU Disney Plus shows, which I'm kind of excited for because some of my opinions on them have actually kind of changed a little bit. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this, shall we? So first up we have WandaVision, the first of all of these shows. And this is an easy one. I'm still going to put this one in the A tier. As crazy as this show sounded, it was extremely fantastic to where it fit the TV format, as every episode was a different, decade of a sitcom. Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen's performances were perfect, but at the same time, they crafted something so unique in whether it was the outside stuff that was happening or the stuff that was in, and exploring Wanda's backstory. Oh my, and exploring all the stuff with her and Vision. Oh, this was top tier storytelling. And yeah, it does fall a little bit when you get into the action-packed finale, which I wasn't really mad about because that's what we mostly see in the MCU. And yeah, it was a little disappointing because you're just throwing something in that feels so generic into something that's so unique. But at the same time, I still thought the emotions hit there well. And I'm actually kind of a person that agrees with Wanda in that she didn't really mean to create a whole sitcom out of all of this. The only reason she kept it was because so she can deal with her grief. But she also didn't realize the suffering that she was causing to all these people in Westview. So I'm actually kind of on Wanda's side, and I kind of understand her viewpoint. So yeah, that's just me. And then we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm actually going to put in the B tier. I can understand that this show has flaws. You know, it kind of does balance some of the goodness of the concept of the show. You have Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, basically a buddy cop show. So therefore, there is something kind of entertaining from that. And the ideas that this show is tackling so much, it's tackling a whole lot of themes, whether it's the John Walker character and basically showing us what if the government actually chose the Captain America that they wanted. How would that go? And I thought John Walker was a great character that was introduced in Phase 4. I thought the Flag Smashers were an interesting type of villain that basically shows us what if the world was better when the blip happened, before the blip. And that's an interesting perspective, and that it actually made things a lot worse for people. I also just love the stuff with Isaiah Bradley. Honestly, with this and Captain America Brave New World, these two projects made me just want to see an Isaiah Bradley-led Captain America Korean War film. I just want to see that. Some of the action is really good. I like Zemo's dance moves. I like some of the stuff that we learned about with Bucky and the Roma Laje, and how close Bucky and Io were in this show. I guess some of the problem here is I feel like some of the elements, they try to do so much, and then you try to do the stuff with Bucky and it just didn't really work, and then you try doing the stuff with Sam's Captain America, but I thought that was perfect. That was great, and the way they did it was also awesome. And people have been complaining that Cap's like Sam's way of winning to people is just by giving speeches. But you do realize that's what's in his character. He was a therapist for war veterans, so, to do therapy with them. So it makes sense for him to do that. But I can kind of understand why. I mean, I've always liked the preachy stuff in movies and TV shows, so I never really had any issues with it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Falcon Winter Soldier, and I also just loved I did like the Sharon Carter stuff, even though it was very obvious, and I just loved Sam's arc of becoming Falcon to Captain America. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty good show, but not perfect. Then we have Loki, which at first glance, I thought this was one of the weirdest shows, because why are bringing back a character that died in Infinity War, even though this is the version from 2019 when we saw him in Avengers Endgame, when the Avengers went back in 2012. And I thought the way they crafted this show was so unique. It felt a lot like WandaVision, where they were just crafting something so unique, whether it's the set design or just the characters themselves were entertaining and enjoyable. And what was so interesting about the first season, though, is the first season didn't just do something very generic. It kind of did a whole bunch of things. To where the first episode, by the first two episodes, you think, Loki is here to catch another version of himself. And then we start diving into what the TVA is, and we keep learning about all these variants. And matter of fact, the TVA are actually all variants of themselves, and there's actually other versions of each other out there, and that's interesting. And then learning that the TVA doesn't exist, and that someone is actually, timekeepers don't exist, so who's actually creating the sacred timeline, and you realize it's, He Who Remains, a Kang variant. That's exciting. And I thought they kept this. I thought that was kind of the exciting part of what made Loki Season 2 so unique, is that it didn't just stick with a small structure. And because I really enjoyed Season 1 more, and I kind of knew what to expect, that's what made me kind of enjoy Season 2 a little bit more, because the second episode is so good, because these interrogation scenes and getting under Mobius's skin and just having Loki and Mobius interact and be a team, and at the same time him kind of lead the TVA, that stuff was cool. And I feel like as the season went down, it's kind of okay, so where exactly are we going here? Oh, sorry. And then I realized, so Loki is now going to be in charge of the Time Authority or whatever. That's interesting. Very unexpected of what I was not expecting that at all. But it's an interesting way to take things, and hopefully we get a emotional reunion between Thor and Loki one day. Hopefully in Doomsday or Secret Wars. We'll see. But for now, I'm going to put Loki in the B tier. It's not A tier, just because, once again, it does something so unique and different, but that's also what makes it a little bit too different, and that sometimes it was a little confusing, and I'm like, is this really the way to go? Because, honestly, I haven't really heard anybody, everybody says they love this show. People say this is peak Marvel, but at the same time, this show does not give you any action. And that's part of what Marvel is, but it's okay. Next up we have What If. This is such a complicated show for me, because I think the first season is possibly one of the most entertaining and wholesome, well, not wholesome, but one of the most good-feeling seasons of What If that I've ever seen. Mainly because it just sticks to the safe formula of basically showing us these what-if scenarios of what if what if Peggy Carter took the super soldier serum and became the Captain America of World War II? What if T'Challa became Star-Lord? What if there was a zombies apocalypse during the Infinity War? What if all that stuff happened? And I think they crafted something kind of unique in the first season. And especially, doing Guardians of the Multiverse and Infinity Ultron and stuff like that. All that was pretty cool. I think the second season was kind of cool too, as there was a lot more bangers than I actually expected, that I didn't expect. However, I wasn't a big fan of the way the season ended, and that was kind of one of my favorite things I liked about this first season is I liked the interconnectedness of all of it, and basically making it feel so connected, and having a team up at the end. And then I think the third season just kind of filled in everything. There wasn't really any episodes that I particularly enjoyed. Maybe besides like the Shang-Chi and Red Guardian episode, but besides that, I barely enjoyed all the episodes in here, especially in the finale and in all the episodes here were just kind of weird. And I feel like we could have gone better with concepts. Like, we could have literally gone a concept where, what if the other half got snapped? And you see Spider-Man and Black Panther and Ant-Man and all these other people. What if they survived? What would those interactions be like? So, it's an interesting approach of what they would take. But, man, and the fact that this only had 3 seasons, when the show was literally about infinite possibilities, you really fumbled the bag with this show. So, I'm going to go C on this one. Alright, next up we have Hawkeye. This to me is the best of the MCU Disney Plus shows. And I'm going to put this right up in that A category. I love this show. And I think the reason why is because it just gives me something safe to watch. It's Christmas, it's New York, it's Hawkeye. But at the same time, we are learning a story about Hawkeye. And something that I was very much looking forward to. And exploring Hawkeye's dark history. In exploring his dark days as Ronin and what exactly led him to do that, and exploring a little bit of what was he like before he became an Avenger, before he became a hero, and basically seeing he is a hero. He's not really a bad guy. I also really liked Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, and besides all the cool bow and arrow action, I liked a lot of the hand-to-hand combat in here. So there was honestly and I also like the LARPing crew. Yeah, the tracksuit mafia aren't really that big of threats, but they're still fun bad guys to have beat up and stuff like that. So maybe the villain side is probably my only issue with the show. And yeah, maybe the Kingpin reveal is good. I liked the Kingpin reveal, even though they saved it for the very last episode. Still, I thought this was a great show, and my only complaint is, besides the villains, is I kind of wish there were more episodes. Now, I'm hoping if we get a season 2, they actually do better with the villains. But that is my only complaint with this show. Alright, next up we have Moon Knight. Now, Moon Knight is a show that, I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of looking a little bit more positive on some of these shows, because I'm starting to look back on them, and they're not actually all that bad. Some of these shows are actually pretty good. And with Moon Knight, I actually gotta be completely honest, this show is okay. I think, of course, I think 2022 was the year where I just kind of dropped it for Marvel. I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the stuff they made, and a lot of projects didn't really work for me. But when Moon Knight came out, I was very mixed on it, as we barely got any Moon Knight. I thought Oscar Isaac was pretty great as this role, especially in him switching performances from Mark Spector to Stephen Grant. And so all that stuff is great. Some of the Moon Knight action, pretty cool. The problem here is, I think when it came to the story elements and stuff like that, was a little difficult to get through. And I think it all laid down to the 6-episode arc. And that it just felt a little rushed when you got to the finale, and it really sucked. So, and I mean, I liked the finale, don't get me wrong, even though it was very rushed. But I have to admit, it is a C tier, and there's just some things that just kind of felt unfinished. So, that's my thoughts on Moon Knight. But then we have Miss Marvel, and I'm actually going to be a little more positive on Miss Marvel, because there's actually a lot of you that really like it. Because I noticed there's actually a lot of you that really like Miss Marvel, and some of you think it's like a very good show. And I'm actually going to be quite honest, I think that this show, considering where all these different Marvel shows have gone over the last few years, Miss Marvel is actually one of the better shows for me. First off, I think the best thing about this show is Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. Everything about the character and the way she handles the character is perfect. I mean, and this is coming from someone that likes Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel. I remember watching her on Avengers Assemble and stuff like that, and as corny as that show is, Miss Marvel was a huge highlight. And being this, like, inhuman Avenger and stuff like that. Of course, I still have issues with this show and them changing her powers, but I still kind of enjoyed some aspects about the show that they gave us. And besides that, I also realized that this is like the third show, or the third MCU project, that they're doing a different cultural thing. To where Black Panther was all about African Americanisms. You had Shang-Chi, where it's all about Asian Americans. And then you got the Muslim people, which, up to this point in time, whenever a Muslim person was represented in a movie or a TV show, they would always be represented as like a terrorist or a bad guy or a villain. And in this show, you have not only do you have a Muslim superhero, but you have good Muslim people. And just seeing a good family of these people that live in New Jersey, and that to me was kind of interesting. And I'm like, we're seeing all these dances and how this culture works, and I'm like, what am I watching here? This is not the MCU that I grew up with. But then I realized the reason why I wasn't connecting with it as much is because I didn't understand the culture. But now that I'm older, much older and wiser, I understand all that dancing and stuff they were doing was because it's part of the culture that they're a part of. And I didn't realize that until now. And that was something so interesting. We got a new culture in the MCU. And the way that, like, Miss Marvel's represented across the New Jersey city and stuff like that, I thought was kind of cool. Even though I wasn't a big fan of, like, learning about the Muslim, like, history and stuff, and the time travel stuff, I wasn't a big fan of that. I wish they did more of the street level stuff, but I think overall, this show was practically kind of good. And I remember looking, and I watched the MCU retrospective video on it, and they were saying all these things, and I'm like, wait, this show was actually kind of good. So, I think probably for today, I'm going to put this show in the B category. And it's going there probably only for today. Alright, next up we have I Am Groot. So, this is a pretty interesting show to discuss because, you know, this came out during a time when Marvel just was not making very good shows. I mean, I'm a little bit more positive on Miss Marvel and Moon Knight now, but with I Am Groot, if you were tired of all the Marvel shows that were coming out that year, I would say I Am Groot is definitely worth the watch. At least for the first season. I think the second season is also enjoyable. I just don't really like the plots of it. I mean, if you try to think about it, it's going to get you upset. But if you just turn off your brain and you just like to see Baby Groot do cute Baby Groot things, that's all it is. So I'm going to put this one in the A tier because it's simple, turn off your mind fun, and it's one of the best ideas that Marvel has done yet. And it feels like little Pixar shorts from Marvel. So I think that's cute. And then we have She-Hulk, and yeah, I'm just going to put this straight in the D tier. No offense to Tatiana Maslany. I thought she did pretty great as She-Hulk and Jennifer Walters. My problem with this show, and pretty much like everybody else, is the show didn't feel like it had any direction. It felt like it wanted to be a legal drama, but then at the same time, it was trying to do comedy, but it's not funny. And I feel like it had an idea of where it was going, and you have like Jennifer Walters talking down to Bruce Banner when he's been a Hulk much longer than her, and she's trying her best to not be a Hulk and do all these things. And, having all these characters, bringing Abomination back, and having these little storylines that don't really make a whole lot of sense. And I'm just sitting there going, like, what is this show? Like, where is it leading towards? And honestly, the only reason why anybody was ever excited for this show was because they just wanted to see Daredevil. Like, as soon as the first episode happened, we were like, oh, no, Daredevil? Okay, we'll come back next week. Oh, Daredevil's not being in here? Oh, we'll come back next week. Oh, no, wait. We saw Daredevil's mask. He's going to be in there next week. Oh, he's not next week? Okay, that's next week. And then he finally shows up in the 8th episode, and he's like, oh, this is peak Marvel! Marvel is back! And then the final episode, everybody goes back to hating it. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I kind of liked the last episode. Not only because it ended, but because it was kind of clever in the way they did it. But at the same time, like, this show just felt so clunky. And I can't lie, the Daredevil stuff was very cool. But we came here for She-Hulk, not Daredevil. If you want to go see Daredevil, go watch the Netflix show, go watch The Defenders, or go watch the new show, Daredevil Born Again, that comes out March 4th. But, therefore, She-Hulk is in the D tier. Then we have Secret Invasion, which, before, I was actually very positive with Secret Invasion. But over time, this show, I think, has a lot of issues. I think it started off pretty well as, like, the solo Nick Fury show, which I thought was an interesting idea to do for a character like this. The problem with it is that the show felt a little too safe. Not too safe, but, like, it felt a little too weird at times. For some of the action was actually pretty good. But I feel like the plot itself felt a little too unfinished. And that was because of the 6-episode arc. If it actually stretched out to maybe 9 or 10 episodes, I think it actually would have done a lot better. And the runtime also needed to be longer. And just killing off Talos, killing off Maria Hill in, like, the first episode. Like, this was tragic stuff they did. And I have this deep faith that while Secret Invasion failed in certain things, I have this strong theory that maybe it could possibly win, and that the reason we're going to get Secret Wars is because the world is at World War III. The universe is going at... Our universe will be going at each other's throats, that we can't focus on the main goal at hand is to stop Doctor Doom. And that's what causes Battle World to commence. I still want to keep that, but that is where I'm going to put that. So I'm going to put this show in the D tier. A lot of things I enjoyed about it, but unfortunately, actually, you know what? I'm putting it in the C tier. I'm going to be a little bit kinder to it because I did kind of like the show. And then we have Echo, which I'm not going to lie, I actually loved Echo. Yes, do I agree that it is very short, and do I agree some of the action is a little bit choppy? Yes. Did I still love it? Absolutely. And I love the way they handled certain things. And I want to see more of the character. Just that. Then we have X-Men 97. I think that this is one of the best MCU Disney Plus shows. I was very hesitant at first when they announced it that, like, Disney Plus is bringing back the X-Men animated series, which I like the series, the first animated series, don't get me wrong. I just couldn't get excited for it because it's just taking everything from the comics and just adapting it onto the screen, just straight up, and not doing any adaptation of it. This one comes in and actually, like, modernizes it, and it's awesome. It actually makes you like the characters, and the story here was pretty great. And honestly, like it was kind of cool to be in this experience where it feels like a lived-in Marvel universe where you see Daredevil and Captain America and stuff like that. And even then, you get to see like the X-Men go back in time or something. And so that has me intrigued. So I'm excited for season 2. So overall, this was just a pretty great Marvel animated show. So I'm going to put this one in A tier. Next up, we have Agatha All Along. And yeah, I'm actually going to put this one in... You know what? I'm going to put this one in D. I put this one in F before, but I'm going to be a little bit more kinder to it. It is still my least favorite Disney Plus show, but I will say there's at least like 2 things that are saving this show from going to F. Is Catherine Hahn is amazing, Aubrey Plaza is gorgeous, and the stuff with Wiccan and all that stuff was pretty good. Other than that, I didn't really care for this show. I didn't care about the witches. I didn't really care about Agatha's journey. I didn't really care about anything of the story, and it's honestly one of the Marvel shows that I just didn't really tune in as much. So that tells you a lot from what I feel about this show. And finally, we have the new Disney Plus MCU show, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. What are my thoughts on this show? It's pretty good. Now, everybody is hyping this up to be like, this is one of the best Spider-Man animated shows of all time, which you'll hear about my Spider-Man tier list, which I'll be doing straight after this. Where would I put it? I'm going to put it high C. Mainly because I think there's a bit of better writing choices in the way they use the characters and the way that they adapt certain things. And it's definitely a bit of a much better usage of the what if concept than what if itself. So I think that was kind of fun. But other than that, I think, animation style is pretty cool. I liked the way they increased it. I just was a little bit underwhelmed by the finale. But I am excited for the next 2 seasons. And I'm excited to see where this show takes itself. So, that is my general thoughts on all the Disney Plus MCU shows. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I'm going to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.